We are now talking to former Chargers and Bills All-Pro linebacker Shawne Merriman. What's going on, Shawne?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
We are good, man. And this guy right across from me, Tyler Mothball Harrison, the bald guy losing his hair, 28 years old. I mean, you got more hair than he does, okay?
Yeah, shit happens, man. So,
Shawne, I have to deal with this every day. This isn't just because you're here. This is literally an everyday occurrence.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but this guy was very excited to get you on. Obviously, your personality.
Oh, he's one of my favorite players. That was awesome.
Oh, God, here we go. Anyways, he's very excited to get you on, Shawne. So why don't we get into a little bit about, first of all, let's go to Fubo Sportsbook. I mean, obviously you're working with Fubo. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Fubo Sportsbook and how you're moving forward with it.
yeah, so my MMA league is Lights Out Extreme Fighting on Fubo Sports. So we got a big fight coming up December 10th at the Commerce Casino, and it'll be live on Fubo Sports. You can check out all the other fights that we've had. It's on Fubo Sports, too. They're always running them back. So check that out. And then, Fubo Sportsbook, man. This will be big for me because I've been, I've been waiting to announce this and kind of talk about it a little bit. And I'm glad I'm launching it with them.
Well, first of all, when my producer put it on a piece of paper, I thought it was Fubo. I said he's working with LL Cool J. That's what he's doing.
Right. No, it's funny. I get that a lot. But more people they just crossed over 1 million subscribers. Like they're aggressive with acquiring content. They're growing like hell. And then we're the top 3 most watched program on there ever. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's cool because I've been around the sport of MMA for 16 years. And then now to be kind of on this side of things has been great.
Well, I'm a huge fighter. I do a sports show. Well, right now we put a little hold on a sports show because my partner actually had a partial heart attack, so he hasn't come back. But we haven't done our MMA show. We've been all over. We work with a lot of great fighters. We've had a lot of MMA, UFC fighters on our show and Bellator fighters. So, and I actually have a black belt in judo and kempo, and I have a purple belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I was a boxer for almost 8 years, so I know a little bit about fighting. And I loved what I see with you, your workouts. I've been on your social media and how hard you work out and that you have such a love for the sport. So it's great to see a lot of these ex-NFL players, Greg Hardy being one of them too, with the UFC. A lot of these ex-NFL players are starting to move into UFC combat sports.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've been concentrating on this past year. The pandemic slowed things down a little bit, but I want more former athletes from other sports to transition into Lights Out, into MMA. I think it's coming. We started to see Greg Hardy had some success, and regardless of what anybody think about him personally,
right.
This guy's only been fighting a couple years and like going against guys who've been training for 15 years. I mean, this is, it's legendary because we just have something about us when we transition to the sport. We just have to pick up the discipline, right, and learn like what to do. And, you get in there, all those muscles and everything don't matter if you don't know how to use them. And someone is just better technically sound than you are. Mm-hmm. So over this past year, we got some big announcements coming up. We're announcing some former athletes, former NFL players that's transitioning and going to take their first amateur fights with us. So that's going to be cool.
Well, I love what they're doing right now. They're trying to bring basketball players into boxing now. Thank you, Jake Paul. I mean
Frank Gore, too.
I mean, it's crazy.
Frank Gore's a house.
It's crazy the way a lot of these ex-athletes are starting to move to combat sports. Maybe they think that they compete because of their athletic ability. Some of them could. Some of them are great fighters, a.k.a. Herschel Walker. Everybody remembers Herschel Walker.
He's still fighting.
He's still
But
dude, he's
what's funny?
60 years
Everybody
old.
always want to bring up the one person that got knocked out. So I tell them about MMA, and they're like, "Oh, Johnny Morton," and I'm like, "Why don't you bring up Herschel Walker? Bring up Greg Hardy? Some of these like legit guys.
Yeah.
Bring up the one guy to get knocked out."
That's because everybody thinks they know fighting. They watch MMA and they're like, they know everything. Conor McGregor, all the great fighters. But there are a lot of great fighters that nobody's ever heard of. And they're starting to move up. And obviously Bellator is starting to push their fighters out to the UFC to try to compete. Michael Chandler being one of them. So there are fighters starting to maneuver in different, combat sports and stuff like that. But a lot of my guys, my two partners over here, they really want to get into football with you. They're very excited to talk a little football with you. So my question to you is, tell us a little bit about your career with the Chargers. Obviously, you played with Drew Brees. You played with Phillip Rivers. You played with a lot of great players. So tell us a little bit about your path as an NFL player with the San Diego Chargers.
So, when I got drafted, obviously I was the youngest drafted player, I think, at the time ever in the NFL. And you don't understand, you're walking into the locker room with Drew Brees as your starting quarterback and Phillip the backup. Like, you can't even fathom that. And I look back on it now knowing that, Drew Brees is going to be a Hall of Famer. And in my opinion, Phillip better be one too.
He better.
That, you played on a team with 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Then you walk on the team, and LT's there, Lorenzo Neal, Donnie Edwards, Randy Godfrey, all these guys, and you're like, man, I played with some of the best guys in football. So, and it was a shit show every day, man. It was a competition. I mean, you couldn't do anything wrong in practice. They would get on you continuously, and just you couldn't get beat in 101s. It was just nonstop competition every single day.
So I want to move on to the coach now with Marty Schottenheimer coming in, one of the longest tenured coaches in NFL history, one of the winningest coaches in NFL history. What was it like playing for him, like as a person and also as a coach?
Now, I'll tell you, so he called me the day of the draft. He drafted me, and he said, hey, you ready to be then San Diego Charger? And I was like, yeah, you guys ready to draft me? I'm ready to get to work. So I came out there, and Marty was one of these guys that is like tough as nails, right? I mean, he's always on you and stuff like that, but he cares. And so sometime in practice or training camp, when we had the double days, like 2 practices every single day, back to back for like 3 or 4 weeks, like nonstop. And he'll come up and pat you in the back and say, hey, take this drill off or whatever, stay out of this drill. And you're like, man, damn, he's cool. Right? This is awesome. And then the next day he'll line you up right in Oklahoma drills. You're like, he was just, he was just tough on you, but he was like the ultimate motivator where he made you want to run through a wall. Like he made you want to run through a wall no matter what. And we always used to have this bet because he gets so emotional in the team meeting rooms that if he cried before a minute or two, then we all would be trading hundreds and fifties under the seat. But I miss Marty, man. He was a big part of me just learning how to be a pro and man in general.
It's funny he brought up Marty Schottenheimer. Obviously, Marty Schottenheimer was a very big advocate for the Chargers to keep Drew Brees long term. Then they obviously drafted Phillip Rivers, which led to Drew Brees going to Miami. That fell apart. Then he ended up in New Orleans. And obviously, we know what happened from there.
Actually, they drafted Eli Manning.
Everyone knows what I meant. All right, thank you, statistician over there. So after they drafted Eli and then traded him for Phillip Rivers, so he doesn't get upset, do you think that Marty Schottenheimer kind of felt like his time was up when they went with Phillip Rivers, or was that a falling apart? Did you guys feel it in the locker room? Because obviously you still had leaders there like Lorenzo Neal, like LaDainian Tomlinson.
No, I thought the fallout was with our former GM, A.J. Smith. That was the fallout. It wasn't. It was just a personality clash, and they just didn't work well with each other. It got to the point where, it was a joke for us because they would walk past each other or stay far away from each other as they could and not be in the same room. It got really bad when it comes to that. So I don't think it was with Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers at all. Marty is just like, we were all shocked at, when he got let go right after the 14-2 season because, I think we had some there. But also, too, having Norv Turner to come in there and, us follow up another year at 13-3, go right back to the playoffs and, have another successful year. It's like we had a squad, man. I mean, we had between 2005 and 2008 or 9, I believe it was, maybe like 30 Pro Bowls or something crazy.
We are talking to former Chargers and Bills All-Pro linebacker Shawne Merriman. Check out Fubo Sportsbooks, Light Out Extreme Fighting. Obviously, the fight team of Shawne Merriman's, and I'm definitely going to be looking it up because there's a lot of fighters out here, a lot of good fighters that are starting to grow in the amateur divisions that want to go pro, and they're going to be looking for teams in a very short future. So, a team that's starting to grow over there, Lights Out Extreme Fighting. But 2006. Okay, was the year. That's the coming out party for Shawne Merriman. 17 sacks, 1 forced return fumble. A little bit about that year and what was going through your head when you were considered the best linebacker in all of football.
You know what's crazy is so after 05, when I went to the Pro Bowl and had All Pro Defensive Rookie of the Year and stuff like that, it kind of puts you on the map. Right. And I talk about like Chase Young, all these guys who have a big first year and to get you on the map. And then like it's so hard that following year because they're coming in and preparing for you. So I remember, talking to Junior Seau at the time and a few other people, Ray Lewis, and I was having a conversation with all these guys. They said, "Look, I'm just letting you know." And Ray's telling me they're planning for you, they got you marked out, and this is what they're gonna do. They coming, right? I remember the offensive coordinator, or was the offensive line coach of the Eagles at the time in 2006, walked up to me in pregame and said, "Hey, by the way, you ain't sniffing Donovan McNabb." Basically told me I ain't touching Donovan, and guess what? I ain't touched Donovan, right? I mean, they threw everything at me in the kitchen sink: slide protection, fan protection, chip off the edge. Tight ends are hitting me before they go out in routes. I was like, man, this is like World War 20. This is insane. And I learned how early on during that off season to start playing against the coordinators. I down and distance, when can I jump the snap? What tendencies can I get from the quarterback? What hash mark are they in? How much time left? So I started playing that game instead of the offensive tackles and people in front of me, because that didn't matter. They were never going to block me 1-on-1. So I had to start playing against the coordinators.
So on your opposing teams, any games you played, who was the toughest offensive lineman you ever played against, or maybe even a team offensive line if they had different guys block you, and also quarterback? Who was the toughest of those that you ever played against?
That I played against, I would say Walter Jones, man, from Seattle. Walter Jones did something, and I've seen, Orlando Page, Willie Roaf. I've seen Marcus McNeil, who doesn't get a lot of credit, but I've seen him every day in practice. So that was just a whole nother beast. But in actual game, Walter Jones, man, that people don't understand how big and athletic and how good his feet was as an offensive tackle. He get his hands on you and it's a wrap. It's done. That play is over. And he was big and he was nasty and he can pass block too. So if anybody, man, I would say Walter Jones.